Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in this week to Hognose One podcast. We have some special guests tonight. We've got Dustin and Susie with SMK, and they've got some amazing reptiles. I've actually had a chance to pick up a cool reptile from them last year, so we've gotten to chit-chat quite a bit, and they've got some cool projects going on. So without further ado, SMK, do you want to throw out your names and your business name and kind of how you landed on that business name?
Yeah, I got Dustin here, and Susie's the other half. And I'm actually going to let her take the reign on the naming because the name existed before I came into this. So
yeah, it's I'm Kitties, Susie, Show Me Kitties. SMK comes from Show Me Kitties, and it's basically just my gamer tag. And I wanted a name that was cross-platform, that made sense, something I liked, and I just needed it to be on every platform with no numbers. And that was what was available. And then when I started, getting into the hognose breeding, I couldn't really think of a name or anything. I really liked my SMK logo and where it was, and I didn't want to change it, so I just kind of stuck with it and figured that, I will be known for what we do and not really the name. And yeah, it's just kind of weird.
That's so cool. I had no idea about that. It's awesome.
Well, we have 6 cats. So, and we both, again, this is another animal that Susie turned me on to because she's the woman that turns men on to cats. And, yeah, we have 2 Maine Coons, 2 half the size of that, Scottish Fold and a Russian Blue. And then we adopted last summer 2 cats that Susie found at the vet.
2 sisters.
And they're older cats that were sitting in a kennel at the vet. We have big hearts, so we opened up our home and fostered them.
So we love cats.
Yeah, we love cats.
That's cool. Yeah, I love hearing that. I had no idea about any of this. We just haven't, it hasn't come up in conversation. So I think this is great information. Obviously, your focus species is hognose. Any former species or other species that you breed or work with right now?
Yeah, so we have a fire skink. We have a fat-tailed gecko. We have 2 leopard gecko, and we have 2 ball pythons. A bunch of mice, feeder insects, toads, tadpoles. But really, we have all the heterodon. I guess subspecies would be the correct term. We got Mexicans, Easterns, Westerns, and Southerns. And we intend on breeding all of them at some point.
So just quick question here. Do you have any vested interest or going to be interest in like the albino Southerns?
Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. Those are just phenomenal.
Oh, we also have a pair of tricolor hognose as well.
Okay, cool. Is that the poulture or a different subspecies?
Poulture. Very
cool. Question 3, your favorite hognose morph and why?
I like the hypo caramel double visual, the frost. That's my favorite. I just think that green and the brown eyes. There's something about that combination. I mean, we pretty much have almost every morph, and they don't fall very far from the frost for me. It's just like a notch up there, but that has to be my favorite. It's just very, very nice green.
Yeah, and for me, I think sable is probably my favorite morph. Not only the variability of the single gene by itself, but what it does to every other gene when it's combined. It is probably, I think this has been stated multiple times over, but the best enhancer gene that the hognose, out of all the hognose morphs, it has the best influence on the other genes when they're combined. So that's my favorite, especially the ones that have line bred traits as well. The purple line, what Dan has done with the stable morphs, his in particular, his animals are probably the nicest that I've seen, and I do appreciate that morph. I don't think that hognose would be as interesting without it.
Yeah, and I think I can kind of relate, to both of those with the having hatched a permafrost and I think mine's actually a shadow permafrost. I'm not sure that's axanthic like I was originally thinking, because it just has the richest brown eyes. But, I think both of your favorites here, I can kind of relate to that and go, man, both of those are just phenomenal morphs and really game changers, I think, for the hobby. So question number 4, and this is kind of going a little deeper. And for those that haven't tuned into the podcast yet with the one we've already done previously, question 4 and 5 are a little bit deeper. I have 5 questions that I ask every single breeder just to get some perspective. And I want to avoid the surface questions, but I also want to avoid the superfluous, let's talk about buttered sausage baloney that that everybody just talks about the most random stuff. And for them, it's okay. But just for this podcast, I want to kind of focus on the meat and potatoes of everything. But one thing that I've had come up with a lot of people that I've talked to, and it's deep breeders, breeders that have big collections, or it's people coming in, but they've got frustrations, and they a lot of times don't feel like that their frustrations are heard, or that other people see them, or other things like that. So I want to take this opportunity to ask SMK, both of you, what's some of your frustrations you see in either the hognose community or with hognose in general, maybe care and husbandry, and what steps are you taking to resolve those?
Okay, well, if we're going to go deep and not go surface, I'm going to have to give some context. So when we first got into this, Susie and I, Susie had 6 snakes year 1, which is 2020. So from August, we went from 6 snakes to probably 12 snakes by the end of the year. And at that point, the both of us were pretty well hooked. And that stayed that way, about 12 snakes up until 22, the beginning of 22. And Susie looked at me and she said, there's no way we're not expanding until we figure out a better way to house these animals. I don't want to put them in a drawer. I don't want to put them in the dark. Like, if you want to have more snakes, you're going to have to figure out how to provide them with lights, with dirt, with more room, deeper substrate to dig in. And so my motivation for expanding was pretty much her saying, you can't do it unless you give them a better quality of life. I don't want them sitting in a drawer. So my background is metal fabrication and designing. So, that's what I do every single day. And I just looked at this as another problem that I wouldn't work. And it took me about 6 months for me to really hammer out where I wanted to take it and what tubs. Obviously, tubs, right now you can get tubs from Freedom Breeder and you can get tubs from ARS. Other than that, the only other tubs you can get are food grade hotel pans. And further back, my background is in the restaurant industry, so I was very familiar with all the different sizes of hotel pans there are. And so it took me a while to actually come to the conclusion to use them. And when I finally did, I did a proof of concept, and I built 1 level of a hatchling rack, and then I built 4 levels, and then I was happy with it, and then I built another proof of concept, adult, sub-adult level on top of that, all while thinking about getting lights into a rack system, because up until, we did it, it hadn't been done, or that I had at least seen on a level of where my goal is to cross the gap between keeper and breeder. Because I feel like the focus of both parties is to either give somebody an animal that they can keep, or keep an animal that they can appreciate. I mean, it's symbiotic, that nature. So I want it to be more, there's got to be an in-between. And Susie pushed me into really, it's a big challenge. Like, as far as design goes, it's not an easy, this is probably, we've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 iterations of different rack systems. I still haven't figured out the lights. That's on my list of things to do this summer once breeding is over, because my focus right now is every day coming in and cleaning tubs for adults. So I don't really have the time to go explore. But my contribution, I guess, to answer number 4 in a roundabout way, I want to provide the animals with a cross between a keeper and a breeder, and doing that in rack systems that hopefully one day I can economize and make available to the public, for those that really want to spend the money to buy one, because they're not cheap to manufacture. So that's my answer to number 4. Susie?
I'm going to follow that. Jesus. Pretty good. Do you want to comment on what he said, or?
No, I think it's a good. I would like to say, I think you're bridging a gap between rack systems and terrariums, and that there's a huge difference between. I build all my stuff personally, so I really can appreciate what you're saying. About what actually goes into it. But yeah, man, I think there's a huge need for that. There's a huge divide between ZoomEd, open front glass cage with lighting and whatever that you can pick up at PetSmart and, a rack system. I really like your idea because it, I don't know, it's just got some good points to it. So Susie, I'll let you hop in there and give me your thoughts on question number 4.
I would probably say that there's a lot of things that I don't like in the reptile industry. There's a lot of things that need to change. But as far as what I'm doing now, I would say the way that we produce our feeders. I think that I know the animals, the husbandry, that's very important. People speak about that, but I don't really hear many people speaking about how we're producing the food to feed these animals. Rodents are very intelligent. They're very lovable. I mean, they're a beautiful animal, and the way that they're treated and the standard for how they should be is, I mean, the ultimate approval, the gold standard is an ARS rack, and they can't even stand up in that. So what we do, what I'm doing is I spend a lot of time in my rodent room. I treat them with respect and care. I give them things for enrichment. I give them hay. I give them treats. I take their babies with care. I mean, their whole experience is handled with intention. And I feel that while we're creating this business, I think that every aspect of it, I mean, we are in the business of animals. So the animals that we feed, the animals we like, need to be taken care of as well. So we're just making sure that every level of our operation is ethical and humane, and that's what we're doing to change it. And I guess another thing that I would like to see or just say to the community is, what we know right now is the basics. What we know right now is we need to grow from that. Do your own thing. Don't just do what everybody else does. Don't just listen to what everybody else says. If something doesn't feel right, fuck around, find out. I mean, we're very early on in this industry. I mean, there's a lot of things we have to learn. So I guess that's my answer.
No, that's good. And that's actually, part of my journey with coming up with these interviews was I think we've been spoon-fed a lot in the hobby. Society is just like this. And this, this is kind of my evolution as a person. I know before the interview, I was spilling my existentialism comments and, how it relates to it. But I think that, we really have to give it some thought. This is not something we do flippant. Like Susie said, we have to be intentional about what we do and do it well. The point that I want to say with this, the main point is we can learn anything from anything. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that you're not just learning from your mentors, you're not just learning from those above you. And I learned stuff from you guys. I learned stuff from this interview. I learned stuff from the people that I talk to. I'm constantly trying to challenge myself to go, can I learn something brand new from somebody that's been breeding hognose for 3 months? And the answer is, yeah, there's got to be something out there that I can learn, that I can glean from to make me a better keeper, better breeder, better person.
One of the things that we will be doing after we get the racks sorted for the snakes,
yes,
is we will be going into the rodent room.
I'm so excited.
And I will be making racks for the rodents as well.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Not to point fingers or say any names, but some of the outsourcing for rodents is overseas now. We don't know what quality control exists in other places. So you're getting an animal that looks like a mouse and you don't know what's in it.
Oh, some of the frozen rodents I see people feeding their snakes, they don't even look like rodents sometimes.
That's right. And you just kind of wonder. So that kind of prompted me to do my own, branch out. But man, it's just been phenomenal. I was out there today looking at it. It's something I do every day. and I spend time with these animals, make sure they're well and cared for and whatever. And I just learned a lot. So question number 5, if you could go back to yourselves, and Dustin, I know you're fairly recent in this, but still, I know you've learned a ton. And Susie, I know you've got a ton of knowledge and you're still learning. But if both of you could go back to your former self when you first started doing, let's just say start at the hognose point, what wisdom would you go back and tell yourself?
I mean, I think that I would say that I think the biggest issue we had was worrying about things that weren't worth worrying about. Like, we had all of our snakes in bioactive enclosures, and sometimes our snakes would be buried for like 3 weeks, and we'd get nervous. So we'd go in there and we'd dig them up, and then we'd offer them food, and they didn't want it. And we were so worried mainly about feeding them. Like, what if they miss a meal? This one missed a meal. And then we had our leucistic, who went 6 months?
5 or 6 months.
5 or 6 months without eating. She's the healthiest snake we have. I mean, she's amazing. So, and then just thinking back at all the times I actually stressed my snakes out by trying to force them to eat. If they want to eat, they'll eat. If they don't, they don't. They're not like us, you know. They can go months. I mean, I've heard of some snakes going over a fucking year without eating. So my advice to me would just be snakes don't eat that much and just relax. It's going to be okay.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think as far, I think going back, if I had to give myself advice, it would pretty much be the same thing that Susie. I mean, we talked about these questions a little bit before we did this, and we kind of both agreed on this one. That's the same thing as going back and just not applying, our human nature onto reptiles, because they're ectotherms. They're nothing like us.
Yeah.
To look at them like they're a dog or like a cat, they don't need to eat every single day. They don't even drink every single day. They sleep almost the whole day, and they're only active really at dusk at dawn. So, I mean, it's crazy to me how much when you get into this, like, there's all that worry, all that anxiety. And then, we look back 4 years ago, now we're like, oh, I didn't see that one today. Probably see it next week. Or a couple feedings go by and we're like, well, nothing's wrong. The little things, I guess, you build with experience and you take for granted. It's the one thing that, you look back 4 years ago and you're like, wow, we have been around them every single day. Like, even when they go into brumation for 3 months, you miss them. Because you miss, for me, like, I come home, this is my sanctuary. Every day I come downstairs, I handle the animals, I look at the animals, I water them, I clean them, I feed them. So it's definitely a way of life. And I think that'll actually bring me around to answering the question, is be prepared for this thing that you're getting into to consume you. And to understand that if you're not truly obsessed with the thing, you're probably doing it wrong, because it does require a lot of attention. Even though they're relatively maintenance-free animals, I don't think that I know anybody that's, I have one. I don't know anybody that has one.
But also going back to the learning and teachers. I mean, to be honest, the greatest teachers that I've ever had in this entire industry are the hognose themselves.
Yeah, agreed.
Just spending time with them, just observing their behavior, putting them in different situations, bring them upstairs, let them watch TV, bring them outside, put them in the sun. I mean, the most I've learned, the most hard, concrete information that I've gained from all of this whole experience, is just spending time with these animals and observing them in a completely, neutral way. Just watch them. Just pay attention. They'll tell you what they want. They're very easy to understand their body language once you have, more experience with the species. But yeah, those are the greatest teachers you're going to find in this entire industry.
You guys have had some awesome contributions, man, and I appreciate you both for, taking the time out of your evening to talk about some of these things. I think that a lot of the listeners here will benefit, and this will be up for a long time. So I really think that they can glean from it. And that was my point with this. And, I've already learned a lot from the both of you. I I consider myself lucky to call you both friends. We've never met in person, but these are the same type of conversations that we would have over beer at, a restaurant or something. So just tremendous value. Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have to do that. But just in closing, check out the links in the description and go ahead and check them out on Instagram. Are you both on Facebook?
Dustin is.
Dustin's on Facebook. So you'll see the SMK logo just kind of Susie always has cool music with her videos she does on Insta. So make sure to check that out. And the link to the Morph Market will be below. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. I did want to mention from here at Hognose 1 that we do have a book discount promo going on right now, code 2024 on the Book Baby website for any of the Hognose related titles. I've also got a natural history book on there you can check out as well. Also, some of you have asked about available offspring, and we do have several clutches that are on the ground. I've considered releasing some holdbacks from. They're all sable visual, male and female, possible het, axanthic frost. If you're interested in some of that stuff, these sables are really high color. We've got some of them that have a lot of orange on their cheeks and on the sides of their necks, and they just really grow up into really cool sables. I call them fire and ice. They're kind of a blue-gray. I think that's the shadow line reacting with the pastel line that's in there through the sable. So cool stuff going on there. Hit me up. I may let some of those go.